Hi, welcome to the Common Sense Defense Podcast. My name is Ptolemy Pruden, your host. We appreciate you being here for this time, and we're going to dig right into our series, which is dealing with Indo-Pacific collaboration, the framework, and the architecture. Today, we're going to continue on with the structure as it relates to Japan and how our policies have to be synced together. And so, I want to jump right into the section that we're dealing with. This is from the United States Japan Joint Leaders Statement. This came out on the April the 10th, which was a couple of days before the summit between the United States and Japan. And there's an extract that I want to pull out for you. I want to read this to you, and then I want to we're going to go through our material on Japan. I'll look at a couple of options here. So, in dealing with policy, just as a brief, policy has to be concurrent. It has to work together with all of your friends so that you're on the same page. You're changing your rules of engagement. You're changing your rules of interaction so that they can work together with your friends and allies globally. That's how we work with the United Kingdom, how we work with Germany, how the United States works with NATO, how the United States works with the Philippines or Japan or Australia. Every country has a policy construct that you have to negotiate, communicate, so that you can be on the same page, and laws that you have to work, whether it's technological capabilities, whether there are military components, all that has to be negotiated, and so all that comes as a part of the policy construct. And so I want to talk about the bilateral communication that we had with Japan last week. And so I want to read this extract, and this is from the United States Japan Joint Leaders Statement. As our countries strengthen our bilateral ties, we will continue to build our relationships with like-minded partners in the region. Today, we announce our vision to cooperate on a network air defense architecture among the United States, Japan, and Australia to counter growing air and missile threats. Recognizing Japan's strength and close bilateral defense partnerships with the AUKUS countries. AUKUS partners, Australia, United Kingdom, United States, are considering cooperating with Japan on AUKUS Pillar 2 advanced capabilities projects. Now, just as you know, AUKUS Pillar 1 is the nuclear submarine capability that the United States and United Kingdom is working with Australia on for a nuclear powered submarine, not nuclear armed, but nuclear powered submarine. And so the first pillar, the two pillars, the first pillar is the submarine capacity for Australia. The second pillar of AUKUS deals with quantum technologies, AI, weapons, drones, all these next generation warfighting capabilities. And so Pillar 2 is what we're working with Japan. We're working with AUKUS to see if we can bring Japan in on some of the constructive capabilities there. The next paragraph is building on the announcement at the Australia official visit in October to pursue trilateral cooperation with Japan on unmanned aerial systems. We are exploring cooperative opportunities in the rapidly emerging field of collaborative combat aircraft and autonomy, the CCA. The last paragraph says the United States welcomes Japan's revision of the three principles on the transfer of defense equipment and technology and its implementation guidelines, which bolsters cooperation through joint development and production to enhance our deterrence capabilities in the region. So, to your point, that was the point that I was sharing earlier, how we have to work together to change our different policies so that we can work together. So, like for an example, the United States has to change the way that we deal with advanced technologies that are shared with our friends and allies, so that they can work with us for those capabilities. So there's a lot of different things. How command construct, how the command construct is. And we'll see in a few minutes about how Japan's command structure is in the process of being changed, and how we are in the process of changing our command structure there in Japan, so that we can work together bilaterally in making decisions closer to the front lines as opposed to how it's done now. So I want to read an article to you that came out last year, but the efficacy is still, the effect is still there. This is taken from an article called "The U.S. Defense Bill Strengthens Military Ties with AUKUS Japan. This is from Nikkei Asia. Okay. The compromise between each chamber's version of the National Defense Authorization Act, published Wednesday night, kicked off plans to offer Australia nuclear powered submarines under the three-way AUKUS pact with the United Kingdom. Here's the part that I wanted to share. It also requires the Secretary of Defense to modify the U.S. military's command structure in Japan to complement Tokyo's new permanent joint headquarters. The bill requires the Secretary of Defense to submit by June a report on enhancing security cooperation with Tokyo. The report should include an analysis of the feasibility and advisability of modifying United States command structures in Japan, in part to complement similar changes by the Self-Defense Forces of Japan. This language refers to Japan's new permanent joint command currently being established, which will oversee all three SDF branches. That's Self-Defense Forces branches: air, ground, and maritime. The creation of the PJHQ was written in Japan's National Defense Strategy, published December last year, and that would have been 2022, to unify command and carry out joint domain operations. Let me read that again. To unify command and carry out joint domain operations. So you can see that under Prime Minister Kishida, Japan has been, for the last year and a half, 2 years, really working to change how much money they're spending in their annual GDP, because currently under law it was under or sub 1 or somewhere in 1%. I think they pushed a little bit to 1.1, but their goal is to move that GDP expenditure to 2%. So that means you have more resources for weapon systems and for defense. So then the weapon systems that they're developing they're collaborating with the United States on some of the platforms they're going to be deploying. So like there's a second strike capability, meaning conventionally armed cruise missiles that Japan can use on left of launch strikes, meaning if China launches a missile or North Korea launches a missile at Japan, then the cruise missile can go actually and blow up that location where that missile was launched from. That's called left of launch strike. So the ability that Japan has to move its force, its military, from one that has been for 50 years geared towards totally being on the defensive side, and it's still defense, but more of an active defense, meaning they're out looking. It's like they have their systems out looking for where threats may emerge from, and then defend themselves as those threats present themselves. And so right now, North Korea literally fires its missiles up over top of Japan into the ocean. It goes over top of it, right? That shouldn't have to happen. But so now Japan is now in the process where they are collaborating with us so that we can share information. Here's the part that I wanted to say here. It's called where it says to unify command and carry out joint domain operations. This is where we are. It's JADC2 or CJADC2, combined joint command, combined joint all domain control, command and control, CJADC2. That is a new system, an AI-based system that allows you to operate effectively in a large area to defend yourself against oncoming attack. And so, and it merges ISR, off-board capabilities. So there's a whole world about the CJADC2 component. So we're developing a system that we can insert or interact with our friends and allies. So while the CJADC2 is something we're developing now for our nation, we're also making a component, our own ramp component, where NATO friends and allies, Japan, Australia, South Korea, all of our friends and allies, Philippines, will all be coming. Then one part down here, the last paragraph, it says he called for the establishment of a U.S. joint domain headquarters that would be a counterpart to the PJHQ, adding that coordinating command and control with Washington will be the top priority for the PJHQ, which when it is established. So we're looking at two systems: the United States Joint Forces and the PJHQ all working together. So that's kind of where we are. And as we move forward in the next year and a half, we will have two systems operationally be able to work together from a communication perspective, from a understanding the domain awareness, knowing what's out there, knowing what kind of threats are out there, and then on the back end, you have us working technologically together so that we can develop capabilities to deal with those threats that we see, and that's more on the that's more on the operations side of things. But right now, from an architectural perspective, we're working with Japan together to get to that point. So you got to look see all the pieces, and it's really exciting having written China Rising: The Case for Containment, and we have a whole region here. In fact, if you look at the front of the book, there's a section there, you'll see an outline there. That's called the Indo-Pacific Defensive Zone. And the Indo-Pacific Defensive Zone deals specifically with working with our friends and allies to contain China militarily inside that space or right outside of that space so that they don't take over the territory of our friends and allies, whether it's Japan, whether it's the Philippines. That whole first island chain is what is our response to China's ability to negate or to invade or to take over segments of the first island chain. And so to take the fisheries away from the Philippines, like they're currently doing in the South China Sea, to continue to encroach on the Senkaku Islands. So in East China Sea with Japan. So it's looking at how can we assure that that we will keep a free and open Indo-Pacific. And so that kind of is what the Indo-Pacific zone does. And when you read the book, there's a lot of detail there, a lot of material there, but it specifically deals with making sure that first of all our policies are aligned one together with our friends and allies, so that everybody's on the same page. And then we add the physical component, which there's a lot of good material there as well. You can get that book at commonsensedefensepodcast.com. And hey, we'll look forward to talking to you in our next segment. We're going to be dealing next with the Philippines and the how we can work together with the Philippine nation to make sure that they have all the equipment that they need and the capabilities so that we can work together with the Philippines. Hey, have a great day. We look forward to talking to you real soon. And thank you for being here today on our podcast.